morning, everyone. Welcome in person and online to our November meeting about the Roberta Savler Contest Repertoire. Before I introduce our presenter for today, Elaine Felder, our chairperson for the contest, Regina Cirkin, would like to speak some words.
Yeah, hi. Just a few words. This year we decided to include the music by Latin American composers in every level. This music not always very well known, but I taught most of these pieces to my students a lot and they all love it. So I hope you'll enjoy working on this music. I also have to apologize, there was a change in the repertoire, but it's not on the website. In level C, the contemporary piece is going to be Toccata by Khachaturian, not the Sonatina. Somehow I missed it. So Elaine just saw the music today. Okay. So I apologize. Probably I forgot to tell Janicio something. I don't remember what happened. I also want to remind that if you need any music, any copies, contact me. I can send you the scan. And also, I want everyone to read thoroughly the rules because some teachers ask me the questions which are very clearly discussed and explained in the rules, and we're trying to be flexible, but up to a certain point. Okay. I also want to say that we'll be really happy. We are happy that Elaine agreed to share her expertise with us, and let's listen to her now.
Good, thank you. So it's my pleasure to introduce Elaine Felder. She joined the piano faculty of the Music Institute of Chicago in 1976 and is now for the past 9 years the chair of the MIC piano department. Before, she was on the faculty of Cleveland Institute of Music, the preparatory department. And during the past 41 years, she has worked with students of all levels, and many of these students are competition prize winners who also perform regularly in student concerts all over Chicago. Elaine is very active, active chamber coach for both the MIC Academy and the community school. In addition, she was on the performing and teaching faculty of the Pidden Austria Summer Music Festival. She is also on the faculty of the yearly Chicago Duo Piano Festival, where she regularly performs and teaches. In 1988, Elaine Felder received an award for excellence in teaching from the Dr. Schultz Foundation, and in 2050 was invited to teach masterclasses at Florida State University, where she also received an Excellence in Teaching award. In May of 2017, she was the recipient of the Colburn Teacher of the Year Award from the Music Institute of Chicago. As a student at the Oberlin Conservatory of Music, Elaine studied with Jack Radunsky and after graduation with Adele Marcus, Vitia Brunsky, and Menahem Pressler. Thank you for presenting today. Yes.
Thank you, Yumi. Thank you, Regina. First of all, I want to thank Regina for introducing me to some really wonderful Latinx music, which I knew nothing about, and I'm very happy, was very happy to explore it. So we're going to start with the A level. First piece up is Playing Marbles by Octavio Pinto. He was not a composer, first and foremost. He was an architect. And I found out that in just researching a little bit that he was married to the pianist Hugh Martin Baez, whose recordings, 33 LPs I have a number of. Sena Sanfantes is his best known work, and Playing Marbles is the 5th piece in the set. I'll play this one through and then talk a little bit about it. about teaching it is to have the students play the fourths coming down, and to have the left hand clustered so that students get a feel for the groupings, which are the same by octave. In the repeated notes, instead of working first on the repeat, thank you. What the best thing to do probably would be to just map the direction. Like that. When they're working on the repeated notes, what I often have students do, because they have trouble, the young ones especially have trouble getting the fingers going, so I just have them hold down the note and just move the fingers while the note is down. 4 3 2, 4 3 2 1, 3 2 1. Then it makes it much easier later on. So the fingers then have a feel for what's going on. For the glissando at the end, what I tell students to do, they're always struggling like this. And I tell them to just practice moving their arm up and down the keyboard, and then I'll have them start, say, almost 2/3 of the way up, and then further down, usually from B to F, and then the next B to the F, and all the way up. And that's how they can get used to the glissando. The next piece is by Domenico Zipoli, Baroque composer, born in Naples. He emigrated to Argentina and studied with Scarlatti in Naples. They quarreled, so he moved to Bologna and Rome, and he became a Jesuit missionary and eventually found his way to South America. This little fugue is very nice. It's really lovely. I will play it all through. At the bottom, it says all the eighth notes should be played detached. I didn't do that with all of them. I'm still trying to decide. I know it says at the bottom it should be, but I'm not sure that I would make all of them detached. Some of them can be much more lyrical, the line. Or either one. In this one, the combination of changing hands from the line from the 16th notes. I often have students work on the same kind of rhythmic movement, changing hands as you would in a Bach fugue or a Bach prelude, as in level D, the level D pieces. I have them work on just the 16th changing hands, mostly for rhythmic reasons. Then the same thing with the 8th notes. And just go through the different measures, for instance, that have a departure from the 8th notes and the 16th notes. notes in both hands, have them play one hand and then the other. At the very end, there are two measures at the very end that have voicing in the right hand. So I would just have them play the top line. Then I'd have them play. So they begin to hear both before they start to put it together. Further up in measure 23, I often leave out notes that are not as important as the line, as in 23, 24, and 25. So they hear how that line moves. And then the alternating note, as you would do in an Alberti bass, gets voiced a little bit, and so they're not doing the thumb loves to be heavy, even mine if I'm not watching it. The next piece by Jean-Baptiste Van Hal, who was a Czech classical composer in the most of the 18th century. He lived from 1739 to 1813, and his music was very much respected by the greats at that time, Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, and Schubert. He was a very proficient organ performer and played the violin and the cello as well. This little allegretto in A major is really lovely. Has a very light, elegant flavor to it. Once a student learns it, it's very important not to have the phrasing be boxy 2 measures by 2 measures, but to try to get it to a student to see a whole 4-bar phrase. When I have a broken chord like this, I usually have students block it so they can feel the whole chord all together, and then once they become comfortable with that, and they learn the right hand rather, with all the little slurs and not doing, but just to feel sort of like, when I'm teaching a light staccato, I have students picture that they're in a swimming pool and their hands are just riding up above, the top of the swimming pool to simulate some kind of buoyancy. So I will then have them do. And that way they start to feel, not doing, but their hand is already in the chord position, and I will work on more of an arm weight on the first note because it's held for 2 beats and is sort of the bass line. The coda is a bunch of broken chords. So I would teach this first. And then I would, once I teach the chords, in order to put it hands together so that if any students that might have a problem with just coordinating the chord with the right hand note, I would just have them do. And then once they get that coordination, it's a lot easier than to do. His music is often punctuated by, or divided in a sense, between very galant steel, elegant playing, and big dynamic contrasts. So it's really important to start to develop, for instance, in the coda where it starts at mezzo forte. You find out what a student's maximum sound is, and then you go down from there rather than building up from a piano, because pianos are so much more difficult to play than fortes. You find out what the maximum sound is, for instance, in measure 61. And then you go down from there to get to measure 65, which starts with a crescendo. Variety in the sound. Okay, the last piece in this level A, is by, okay, I think hold on. Nope, sorry, the next piece is a waltz by Sibelius. I didn't really know any of his smaller pieces, just I played the accompaniment to the violin concerto a million times with people and know the symphonies, but this little piece, this little valsette is really so lovely. He was credited with helping to give Finland a national identity in its struggle for independence from Russia. Seems we're going through that again. But anyway, with a different country. But here's the valsette of Sibelius. Salon, you know, it's just the harmonies are so gorgeous. Very important to have very accurate pedaling because you want those harmonies to be, you know, quite clear. A student can really explore lyrical qualities with this. in as many of the measures as possible that the hand allows, I always try to, when I have a harmony, when I have a student, any student who's, we're working with a harmonic content, usually of the left hand, I will have them practice for this piece, for instance. So they hear the descending line, and then going, so then, the hand has to learn to move from here to here, so why not learn it 2 notes at a time? I group hand position together as much as possible, because I think it really helps the student to see things differently rather than 1 note at a time. They start to hear it more harmonically. They learn it faster. I'm all about learning accurately and learning as quickly as possible and not making the note reading part of things take such a long time. So I really use different strategies to help them do that. Because it's the real journey for this piece is the quality and just the style of the piece. You want them to get the feel of a waltz, and if they're struggling with notes, that's all they can do. So I try as hard as possible to do that. The last piece in the A section by Oscar Lorenzo Fernandez, who was born and lived his entire life in Rio de Janeiro. This piece is part of a suite called, I forget what the whole suite is called. Yeah, it's from a suite called Suite de Boneca Yaya. A boneca is a doll I think it's in Portuguese. And a yaya is either a grandmother or a caregiver for someone. And this one is about a caregiver or grandmother dreaming. Directional marking is move it a little, but with tenderness. And in the beginning, there's this syncopation, for the syncopation of the eighth to the quarter, I would have a student just really parse it out 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, and especially in the syncopated measures. And I would first, and this has worked for students when I taught this little technique. Whenever there's a quarter note and it happens on the offbeat, I would do exactly what Fernandez wrote in the 4th measure, where he has straight eighths. In measure 3 and measure 5, I would do 1 and 2 and 3, 2 and 1 and 2 and least it gives them a feeling of having to wait for that offbeat quarter note. Same thing later on, where when it returns to tempo 1, just before the double bar, I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that again, they're not struggling forever with that accent. The other thing I would do is just take out the rhythm and just do, see, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and I would have them play. Actually, I would have them play 4/16 notes, so that they play a 16th note on the rest, but for not too long, just to give them the feeling of where that 8th note comes in relation to where the quarter note came in the first part. So I would do 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1, just to get the feel of it, and then have them just leave out the first 16th note and do. You can leave out the first 16th note altogether and just play the 8th note and the following 16th as 3/16. Because it's really important, to have that rhythm really as precise as possible, because that's the flavor of the music from where it was written. The little interlude, I cluster notes together to help them feel 2 notes at a time in a position. So I would do. So that they're not reading 1 note at a time, but they're actually reading intervallically several notes at a time. The other difficulty in this piece is changing tempos, because you start out with 1 tempo at, it says quarter note equals 60, so it'll be 1, 2, 1, 2. And so on the second page, when it's so you have to react. The right hand on the eighth note reacts to the left hand downbeat. And in measure 25, where you have a tie, you can often do 1. that tie, and they don't gloss over it. But the trick is is also moving from one tempo to another. So when we have lots of tempo changes like this, I'll have a student play all the parts in one tempo, and then all the parts in another tempo, in the other tempo, so that we would go from the beginning. Okay, then we go to the second page. So you can match it, and then you do the part that moves the two sections of that. And then stop right on the first note of coming back to tempo 1. So you do all the same sections of the same tempo, and then you start to put it together, and then it probably makes it easier for them to match the tempos. Okay, we are done with level 8. How am I doing?
Good. Time-wise, we are at 11:36. Just telling you.
Oops.
So,
Oops. Okay. All right. First piece up in the B section, Puppets by Bolesław Martyniuk. Cycle of 14 pieces written in 3 volumes between 1914 and 1924. Columbine is the 3rd volume that he wrote, the latest one, but he labeled it as the 1st volume. Not sure why. And these are pieces about puppets, mechanical figures. And they're patterned after the characters in the Italian Commedia dell'arte of Columbine, Harlequin, and Pierrot. And so you don't, these are puppets, tiny people, mechanical dolls. So it's very important to keep it on the lighter side. Instead of doing, I favor the top note of the chord. Then the middle section is right here. This says to me the puppets are just sort of swaying along, and you have a little fuller sound here. It's a really great piece. And then comes back to the beginning. You need to take all the repeats because first and second endings. When you learn the left hand, again, a good way to do it is using the fingering in the beginning. This book says this edition says to use the fingering 2, 1, 2, 5. 2, 1, 2, you could use 5, 3, 2, 1, which actually I kind of prefer because you get a better feel for the chord and a little better flow. Then you go on. And it's very important to just to map through the entire left hand first for all the different harmonies. Again, to get the rhythm in the second measure and the fourth measure, where the left hand starts and the right hand comes in later, I would leave out the E when you're putting it hands together, and so that you get the feel of where everything lines up on the beat. And then you put in the as soon as they learn the notes, it's really helpful to just be aware of, of how the chromatic line moves down. Because that's part of the sway of the waltz. Okay, moving on, we have the Handel Allemand from Suite number 4. It was composed in 1703. Very important here to distinguish between the voices. So again, I would have in measure 2, 3, that's the end basically of the first part of the first phrase. And for students to be really conscious of that A on the 4th beat, because then the right hand takes over. So, again, I would separate the voices. And I would then put the left hand again, I would do, to learn, just block everything that can be blocked. Then you put the left hand with the upper voice. What it does is, it really makes the students think. They're not just reading notes. They have to really look and use their brains. And then you do the upper voice with the left hand, you do the lower voice with the left hand. In measure 8, before the first double bar, or the double bar, I would block it right, on the 8th note beat. This would, because most of the time students see C sharp, then A, then B, and then G sharp. But it's a staggered harmony, and the more they realize that, it makes a difference in how they'll play it, and then you put the proper rhythm in. You separate the voices. And all the way through, that's exactly what I would do. The next piece by Dussek, he was both a composer and a virtuoso pianist, and you can hear you can hear it in this piece. It's really a lovely piece. And his music is marked by lyricism that's interrupted by stark contrast. Just all of this, lots of 18th century, early 19th century virtuosity. The chords, by this time, this level, students should be able to reach an octave. The other thing I would do in that left hand, because it comes back so much, just hold the E flat. So you hear how many times the harmonic change is over the pedal point, and you do it all through this movement. In order to really point up the differences in the dynamic contrast, I have students play, again, the same section, all the sections in piano or in forte. And so the beginning, and then I would skip to measure to this part. And then I go back and do the second line. So that it points up more where they have to think about changing the dynamic. Next spot, that would be down in the fourth line. So you do that, those two bars, just like the first two bars of the second line. And then you would match all the piano sections. This piece is not particularly difficult, but you have to have good scales. You have to be able to play these scales smoothly. In the broken octaves, I haven't practiced. And then fifth fingers along the thumb. In the development, it's basically the same kind of thing. Scales, the law of the broken chord. And so that you want to bring out the bass line more than. And in the second movement, totally different character. It's much more of a little dance. Doing only one?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay. Didn't say. So.
It's lovely.
Yeah. No.
All right, that's good.
It's okay.
No, just no.
Yeah. All right. Wait. Let me. All right. Hold on. All right. Let's see. Where are we?
Moving to Innocentia.
Yeah. Wait. Hold on. There we go.
Good.
My iPad is not being very quiet. Okay, Innocentia, written by Carlos Chavez, composer, a Mexican composer. He was probably, he was a very well-known composer in Mexico from 1899 to 1970, or he was born in 1899. Lived till 1978, and his pieces are rooted in the Romantic salon tradition prevalent in Mexico City's musical life in the early 20th century. here we have chords. So would have students block it. Then I would probably have them do, just to start to get the feel of the flow. Is just block the chord for the rest of the first and second beat, then play the B flat on the third beat. And again, this piece really, it's marked in 4/4, but it really has to be felt in 2. And it's basically that this same character throughout. There's at measure 27, there's a piumoso. That harmony is really lovely. And basically those two ideas throughout. And then in measure 55, it comes back to the beginning. With just very long chords. And the last piece in that set is a duo by Piazzolla, who was the master of the Tango Nuevo, the new tango. He studied with Boulanger in Paris. And she told him his talents were not in classical composition, which he wanted very much, but really in the music of the tango. And so this piece is from 12 pieces by 12 in a group of 12 called Volevo Sur, thinking of the South. And because he lived his parents were Italian immigrants, and he lived in New York City for many years. And this is a character piece from Midsummer Night's Dream. I think it was a suite that he wrote. Lovely piece. At the bottom of the edition, it says play the small notes the second time. So the first time is just. Second time you would put in. To be played the second time. The end of this, it can be played with a lot of freedom, but you first have to know be very conscious of the rhythms very exactly, because then otherwise it's very hard to make a departure into rubato if you don't have the solid feeling of the rhythm. And once you get that, then you can start to feel more of a freedom of rhythmic movement. It's a very short piece. It ends with the typical kinds of cadenzas that he writes in his trios as well. And then you play it again the second time, and the second time ends. Question mark. Okay. Level C. Okay. There are two pieces in this. Let's see. Okay. There are two pieces in this. That are required in this set. One is, they're both from 12 American Preludes of Hinastera. He dedicated a lot of them to composers, one of them to Aaron Copland. This one is dedicated or tribute to Roberta Garcia Murillo, who was a composer and conductor who helped Hinastera a lot with his career. It is a very motoric, and it goes that way for 2 pages. And this little figure would be practiced. It's the same pattern all the way up, the left hand. So put together. And played twice. And then the way probably to learn this is, kids are going to have a wonderful time with this. They're going to want to just bang it out. But you can't. You really, really can't, because it loses its motoric drive. So it's the rhythmic drive that's more important. And, just a very loose arm, and just weight from the arm. And more capitalizing on when it moves. It moves from static to movement, static, movement. And it's a 2-page piece, and everybody will have a lot of fun with it. Okay, then, let's see, moving on to level C. The second piece is a tribute to another composer, Juan Jose Castro, who was an Argentinian composer and contemporary of Hinastera. The piece is composed in waves of sound, 2 measures by 2 measures. Oh, that's the other one. Sorry. This one is Castro was an influential conductor and composer in the generation prior to Hinastera, and this is the quiet contrast to the other piece. chords. E flat 7, and then this chord, and then G minor 7th, one right after the other. And then he comes back to and then a little flourish. It's really a real mood piece. I would practice first the descending line in the left hand. I'd block the 16ths at the end of line 1. Their fingering is 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I use 1, 2, 4, 1, 2. I don't know, because I just like to have a group of notes all together. This way, to me, using a broken up fingering 2, 2, and then a shift 2 fingers at a time kind of makes it broken up, and I happen to like, so it has more of a flow. The group of 5/32, you can work, if you have a student work on that, just playing the E's and triplets, and then it makes it easier to put the 5 notes together. Next one is the Bach-Kabalevsky short prelude and fugue in F major. He took his version of Bach's organ fugues, prelude and fugues, BWV 556. Again, I alternate the same melody from voice to voice, 16ths from the right hand, left hand, right hand. And the way I teach thirds, if they're not doing scales in thirds, which comes much later, I have them do play the top voice, and then the bottom voice, and sometimes I find that students will play the top note or the bottom note, one of them, a little earlier than the other. So I always tell them, think the late note early, and then you'll play it to be early, and then you'll play it on time. And then when it goes into the triplets, I would have them do it in full chords, so that and then I do the same thing in the left hand. And then break it up. In the octaves in measure 18, I would have them do octaves only. And in the same thing. And then I would have them do the middle note. And then they will get the full chord much better, rather than struggling with it. And the fugue is basically the same thing all the way through. I mean, sorry, the prelude. The fugue is so I would not have them, at first I would have them learn the whole thing, left hand alone, right hand alone, but after a while I would have them change voices as I would do for any fugue or any piece that has voice changing from hand to hand. So using the same rhythms and then switching it. And it really, it makes it easier, it actually does. There's a part in measure 78, which I'm sure for the organ you're doing probably this is played on the lower keyboard, and then the pedal is, the foot pedal is playing another part. But here he's got, so this one, the E flat to C, is easy. The one, for me, I don't know, it just feels less comfortable. So I would do different combinations. I would do, I would do the seventh, then I would do the second, and then put it together. Now the A to the B flat is difficult, and the ninths that he's got in measure 82 and 3. Anybody who can reach a ninth should practice it that way. And you have to make sure that there is the and not, you want the accent on the first note, but not after that. In the end, at 86, I would do all octaves first, and then the middle voice. It makes them really have to look at what's going on.
Sorry, Elaine, we are past 12, but we started late, but we have
Okay.
piece to go on. So in the next 15 minutes, if we could wrap
I
it up.
could wrap it up. I will
Thank you.
do my best. Okay, the next is a Bagatelle, Opus 33, number 1, Beethoven. Lovely piece. I love this piece. Again, left hand. Practice it in chords. I always teach 6/8. To little kids, I'll teach 6/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I really like to, for as soon as you can cross over to okay. So when you get to measure 4, that part, I always start at the end of the measure and then back up. Because then they really understand and have to look where each rhythm coordinates with the left hand. I take at 21, 22, 23, these are all left, right, but when I get to the group of 5, I take the left hand. And with a group of 6, the left hand takes that left B flat. The scales starting in 45, I have them learn the scale, but then I have them go back and I start to the end and go to 49 or 50. Actually, I start with 50, and then. And so you work backwards so that you're not always starting from the front of the scale, because it's a long one, between 45 and 49. Okay. This little polka by Nazareth starts out. That polka kind of Polonaise little rhythm, I would have them just practice. And then tell them for their 16th notes, what they get the feel of the chord. Always play the 16th lighter and just throw your hand into, but you have to know where it is to be able to do that. The rhythm of, I would, to get that, the right hand to play right on the last note of the beat, I would start right there and then back up and then always start from the end and get the feeling of and then back up. This piece is long and it has a lot of repeats, and it does have first and second endings, but my recommendation is to if you're going to take a repeat, only take it in the trio. And then it starts over again and then it repeats. But it's a delightful little piece. It really is. Okay. Did I finish? No. Let's see. Oh, it's this. Yeah, it's this. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is our Khachaturian toccata. Did you mark it? No, she didn't. I have it.
There's a sticker.
Is that at the paper?
The
blue one. Next page.
Oh, the next one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. This is an ostinato. So I would first again. So that you get the difference in the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And so I would practice it in 2-note chords. Later on, I would, if there are broken chords, practice it. So that you get the hands to coordinate with what they have to do. Later on, there's a broken E minor chord, you practice in a group, so that it can coordinate with the right hand later on. And then it repeats itself again. Basically, this is the entire piece is like this. The right hand then takes over the ostinato, and the left hand has a melody. It's a nice piece. I just learned about it this time.
So quickly.
Wonderful story.
Okay, at the end there are these fourths. And we practice it in 2-note chords. I mean, it just tailor-made for that. And the left hand. You just group everything. You'll learn it so much faster. Okay, that one's done. Okay, Preludio by Villalobos from the Baquianas Brasileiras. They are patterned after they're South American pieces by most famous South American composer, but in the style of Bach. Is like that. The hardest part is probably on the second page where the left hand has to learn. It's very logical, but the hand doesn't always want to do what is written. So when I was working on this, I did I left out the middle octave of the eighth notes to get myself just oriented, and it takes a while, it does, because logically, it's just a diminished chord, another diminished chord, but it's the positioning against it's the two coming together. So that has to be worked on. I go right to there immediately when introducing the piece. But it's beautiful. It really is a wonderful piece. Okay, the next is the Prelude and Fugue number 20, which I didn't know, and I'm really happy to have been introduced to it, because it's a great toccata, very chromatic. Oh my gosh. And what I did was I highlighted in yellow every place where the right hand starts on the beat, because, which hand starts on the downbeat at the beginning of the beat, because the other 30 seconds have to play off of it. I made kind of a tic-tac-toe game out of it too, because I did the first two bars X, and the next two bars, the next bar, the next three bars O. The next bar O, the next two bars X, and the next bar O, and so that the main melody is where X is, and then it's a rising line wherever in the intervening measure. And then it starts again. And that's how I was able to make the most sense out of it. Okay, and the fugue is wonderful. It is more difficult than the prelude. Okay, the second to the last piece is this beautiful Clementi sonata movement. Crying when I was learning it because it just is so gorgeous. And in measure 12, the rhythm, you have to work with that a little bit. Those are 30 seconds. Then it's mezzo forte. It's 30 seconds within one beat. So probably to practice is 2, 1 and 2 and just get the F sharps. Then worry about the 30 seconds and the 30 seconds and 64ths. It's short. It's really lovely, and the next piece is by Manuel Ponce, and it is was written in 1912. His compositions are influenced by the harmonies and forms of traditional Mexican song. This is a lovely theme and variation. So the theme, 5 flats. Theme. Then the first variation is rhythm, and you have to work with the left hand to get it really, really comfortable. The second variation is in minor key, and the melody's in the left hand. Well, right hand and left hand. The third measure is again in D flat major. And it's just really a lovely, lovely piece in 9/8 time. And the left hand is what has to be worked on. A lot, because the right hand will come a little bit more easily, but the two together take some work. And the final variation is the grand deep rose. The whole thing is not very long, and the very end is there's a little stretto towards the end. Really beautiful piece. The last piece, Barbara wrote this as part of a suite called Souvenirs. There are 5 pieces in the suite. He originally wrote it to play as a duet for a friend, and he was then asked to orchestrate it, and then he wrote it for 2 pianos and 4 hands, and he then transcribed it for 1 piano. And so all of the parts that I used to play just one-handed, you now have to play 2-handed, like the end. That's the main theme. Then it goes on. Lovely melody and all the way through. The hardest part is around measure 25, 6, 7, 8, 9, measure 30. You really have to get this chord in here. hardest part. The other hard part is when it's scored for one piano, four hands, two pianos, it's the one person takes this, and the other person takes this. So I had to really figure out a new fingering for the left hand, and we are done.
Elaine, thank you so much.
You're
For
totally
going through all the repertoire, we really could hear that you put your mind in it and your heart in it. You went through it. You gave us all these tips. Great job to Regina for picking out. All the
Yes,
repertoire. It's a lot of unknown.
Yeah.
You might be similar like me when I see titles. I'm like, that's not like pieces that I know. But that's why I love these sessions.
Well,
to be
I
exposed
had
to it. It
such a good
sounded
time.
beautiful.
Yeah, we're just ordering new music and being exposed to it to give to students now. So you are the one.
Let's work together.
Yeah,
The two
wonderful.
of you together.
Yes.
Expanding our repertoire mind.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything. We have the recording for referral. Email Regina with questions. The website will be updated. Elaine will be also available with questions.
Sure,
She knows all the
Yeah,
repertoire. Thank you so much, and we see you all in
Yeah.
December.
Yeah. Any questions? We'd be happy. Feel free to email.
Okay, wonderful.